In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about grounding and some truths around grounding that has never been discussed before, especially when it comes to very advanced starseeds or extraterrestrial hybrids. Hello and welcome to Starseed Energetics. My name is Ashtara. Mission to bring you some of the highest frequency content, and in this video, we're gonna go deep into grounding. And grounding is one of the most important things to do for starseeds and everybody else. And there's plenty of information out there, such as what to eat, how to earth, how to get in proximity with the frequencies of the earth, and how to allow the electromagnetic frequencies of nature to go merge with your field. But there's a lot of different aspects of that has never been discussed, that from my personal experience, I felt some of the advice that is given are quite contrary to how the energetic circuitry kind of runs for advanced starseeds and extraterrestrial hybrids. So if you just randomly came across this video, this is part of a 24-day series of transmissions and activations for advanced starseeds. When I talk about advanced starseeds and extraterrestrial hybrids, when it comes to the human circuitry, here are some of the common suggestions for grounding. Number one is to stay low to the ground. Number two is to stay stationary and not roam around everywhere. Number three is to actually get your feet in nature. So like the dirt or sand or grass and any of those fields of nature that offers electromagnetic frequencies of the earth. All of those are great, with some exceptions that does not apply to an advanced starseed. So essentially we have a different energetic field than how most people are wired. And so here is some of what I found. I completely understand the theory of digging your feet into the nature and the grass and the dirt, but what I notice, what makes me feel grounded the most, and it kind of makes relative sense when I explain why this is like that, is the element of water. For us, the element of water could be so much more grounding than straight dirt or grass. And I believe it's because our energetic makeup is more closely resembling of this fluidity and these elements of water. And the element of water, when it's a natural body of water, or even if it's like a swimming pool, it is encoded with the frequency of the earth. Water takes on that frequency from the earth. And for me personally, I find that the encoded frequencies of earth through water is more aligned for like more easily digestible for my body to resonate with it. It's almost like how in an Ayurvedic diet, and I'll talk about the Ayurvedic diet extensively because it is very helpful, but in an Ayurvedic diet, there's certain things that are not entirely healthy for more ethereal makeup of energy. So everybody thinks that salads are so healthy, raw food is so healthy, but actually if your energetic field is more etheric, then you're not supposed to be eating raw foods that much, or like you should try to avoid it as much as possible. And people might think that's crazy, people who are not, aware of the Ayurvedic science, but that's because one's energetic field is a lot more ethereal. And so I've never heard anyone talk about this, but personally, I feel the element of water is so grounding to the ethereal nature and more easily digestible for these electromagnetic frequencies of the earth. So for example, if you take the ocean is a complete embodiment of the electromagnetic frequencies of the earth through the element of water or liquid. And for me, that feels a lot more grounding than just solid earth or grass. Of course, solid earth or grass is extremely helpful, but even trees and plants, like a lot of trees, being around a lot of trees is a more digestible form of the electromagnetic frequency for me than just going and stepping into dirt, because the trees also have kind of synthesized the earth's frequencies to a higher, more subtle level. So these are some of the differences. It could be a river. And I honestly find that if I'm in a place with a swimming pool, even if it's in the jungle or in the nature. If there's a swimming pool, it is so much more grounding for me to be in that energy. I love just having a swimming pool there, because that body of water, even if it's, not natural, it's still the frequency of a liquefied electromagnetic earthly energy. So if you're an advanced starseed or hybrid, rather than going and trying to like step all over the grass and mud, I would suggest going to the ocean, like step in the sands of the ocean or just inside the ocean, and make sure that there's a large pool of water if you're trying to kind of integrate these earthly nature frequencies, so that you have an agent that is assisting you break down those earthly frequencies to a more digestible form for your energy field. The second thing too, and people might argue with this, but this is just from my personal experience of being extremely sensitive to energy and having an extremely etheric energy, is people will say that houses that are close to the ground is the most grounding. But I honestly, in my experience, being some stories up feels most grounding for me. So I don't necessarily think that because my energy field kind of calibrates to a great vicinity around me, I'm a lot more sensitive to even distant energy. So I don't necessarily feel like being the most proximate to whatever energetic portal is the most beneficial for me. So even if there's like a power portal, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best to be in the right center of it. It depends on how your energy field processes it. So if there's a power vortex, it might be actually the best for you to be at a certain vicinity. And that's kind of how I feel about the ground. I find it's more relevant and aligned for my energy field if I'm a little bit more elevated. It feels to me a bit more grounding. And maybe for just a regular human circuitry, the closest proximity is the best, but this is just my experience. Of course, it's a complete other story if you can just go lay down on the grass. I love that. But if it's like gonna be for a long time, like I have to live there and I have to spend a couple of days there, it's more grounding for me, feels more grounding for me to have a little bit more distance, because that is the calibration point of my energy field rather than literally on the center of the grid. So this would even go for like, if you visit a sacred site, maybe some people will be like, it is the best to be at the very central core of it, but it depends. You might want to scope out what is the energetic vortex of this sacred site. Has it already been distorted so that it's a little bit misaligned? And so you can calibrate the grid of that sacred site or that portal. Sometimes, yes, it is directly in the center of it. Sometimes the highest level of aligned energetic calibration comes from at a certain distance from it. So don't believe everything you hear. The next most important thing is nutrition, and I'm just cannot possibly put into words how significant it was for me to follow an Ayurvedic approach to the Vata diet. So I'm primarily Vata and Pitta. If you don't know what an Ayurveda is, it's an ancient form of science around perceiving human energetic field as elements, which is very relevant to how it really truly is. Everybody's composed of different elemental structures, not just like physically, but energetically speaking. And depending on your elemental structures, you must adjust your nutrition and diet to fit that. So an example that I gave earlier is around eating salads all the time. I used to eat salads all the time, thinking that it was like the healthiest thing, and juices and smoothies, and turns out that's really terrible for me because my energy is so etheric. So I'm supposed to eat cooked vegetables and stay away from certain vegetables and stay away from certain grains. And you can look this up. If you want to do this properly, you can visit an Ayurvedic center. And I really recommend visiting a professional Ayurvedic doctor that is really passionate about helping people. Not just anyone, but you have to find the right person who is actually excited about helping you. Because when I was doing these online tests, I always thought I was Pitta Vata, like Pitta dominant, and I'm almost equal parts. But when I visited professionals, they let me know that I'm majority Vata and then close up Pitta. So it's like almost equal, but I'm more Vata, and that changed everything for me because that changes everything. And so I recommend visiting a professional. You can search that on Google. I bet you there's in any country, in any city, there will be an Ayurvedic center because it's as prominent as yoga. It's like a sister science. So following the Ayurvedic approaches for Vata has changed my entire life, my cognition, my spiritual connection, just everything. I just can't imagine not doing this anymore. So I'm eating primarily cooked vegetables and avoiding certain vegetables because I used to bloat so much, and I didn't realize it was from all the stuff that I was eating. I literally thought it was just like I'm bloated all the time. But like I literally, to a point where I literally thought I was like had extra weight, but it was always just bloated because I was not eating the right things. Like for example, eating salads and juices, and I'm sure it's like good to have once in a while, but as my primary diet, after noticing what this has done for me, I will never go back to the way it was. I am so much more grounded. So you're meant to eat like whole grains, rice, cooked vegetables like pumpkins, like stir-fried greens, things like that, carrots, like. And for bloating, you have to avoid broccoli and cauliflower. What else? Like you can't eat too much tomatoes. There's a whole thing, you can look it up. And never take snacks because snacks are detrimental to your nervous system. Like your nervous system will kind of freak out if you eat snacks. So just eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And only have warm and hot foods. Just to clarify, the dietary patterns that I'm sharing here are for predominantly Vata and also Pitta people, but you have to look it up because in some cases like Kapha, you have to eat raw foods and the whole thing will change. So you have to figure out what your dosha is, which you can do in your own time. Obviously not too much spicy food, not too much chili, which let me tell you, like before I actually did this Panchakarma, which is a 7-day, I did 7 days, but you're supposed to do like 10 days or longer. So they give you the Ayurvedic lifestyle and a detox from there. And in the beginning, I was like, there's no way I can give up spicy food. It's just built in my system. I'm Korean. I grew up eating spices. Like if you took away spicy food and chilies from my diet, like it's just, I can't imagine just not eating that. You know, like Koreans know that's just what you eat. And I love spicy food. But after doing the 7 days, like I literally don't give an F anymore about what I want to eat because I saw how much it changed my groundedness. So I would highly recommend, if you're a starseed, if you're an advanced starseed, you have psychic abilities and you have this ethereal connection with the universe, most likely you're a Vata prominent. So you can try it. And the interesting thing is, one of my dearest yoga teachers that I've had, who teaches Ashtanga, she told me that there's this false notion that Vata people are all like stick skinny, but that's not the case. She told me that sometimes Vata people will try to eat as much as possible in order to try to stay grounded because they don't know what else to do. So it's possible that if you're like heavier, you could still be Vata because there's this notion that the body types are a clear sign of the dosha. Sometimes there's exceptions like that. Let me tell you, like even air conditioning, I used to not imagine going to sleep or just living without AC because obviously I'm in a tropic climate. I'm in Bali and, you know, it's hot. But after I went to the Ayurvedic approach of detox, I honestly don't care about AC anymore because I saw how much that was good for my grounding. I could drastically feel the difference. And here's the next piece that is the most important for grounding. And this, even if you're Vata or not, this is very important, is to have a structured routine when it comes to your eating, your sleeping, your waking up, and your exercise and your work. So if you're like me and happen to have like freedom in the way you approach your day, you love to be spontaneous, like just do what you feel like during the day, and do what you need to do, but just like shuffle the order, like just eat whenever you're hungry, don't eat when you're not hungry, like wake up when you feel rested, go to sleep when you're tired. If you have these like go with the flow attitude with your day, it is very, very advisable that you at least set a specific time for waking up and sleeping and eating, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and exercise, and your kind of daily rituals. And that is going to ground you so much in terms of your energy field. I know that sounds so counterintuitive to what you love, but that is going to help you so much. And you can kind of like, once you establish a firm structure, you can kind of add in your intuition, and you can add in your flow, and you can add in your spontaneity. But you need to have at least a basic framework of devotion, how to kind of communicate with your nervous system that things can be regular. If it's always irregular, you're gonna freak out your nervous system, and that's going to give you anxiety. And maybe you don't feel it, that is coming from the lack of routine, but your physical nervous system loves to have a routine. Like nature has a certain rhythm, and if you can gift yourself a routine that is at least skeletal, it's going to help you so much. So what's next important is concentration. For people whose cognitive flow is interdimensional, and it is synthesizing so many multiple different timelines and dimensions, mental concentration and release, and in a simple word, presence, is so essential for grounding. So journaling is a great way to kind of release all that mental energy. And these are not necessarily taught as grounding practices, but when you have this level of energetic circuitry, it is so important to release your mental structures, to have some sort of a concentrative exercise for your mind. Obviously, that could include meditation. Obviously, that could include breath work. And also, it could include yoga. Yoga is an amazing form of concentration that also aligns you in time and space for that continuum. It is a configuration of your physical body to the geometry of the earth. Essentially, that's what it does. Last but not least, it is widely understood that being stationary and being in the same place for a long time is extremely grounding. And I believe that's probably the truth for regular human circuitry. But when it comes to advanced starseeds and extraterrestrial hybrids, a large majority of them are actually grid workers that open portals and work with the energetic system of the earth, even if you know it or not. And so what they're going to be called to do is travel. What they're going to be called to do is not stay in the same place for a long time. And you might have this false notion that that is not grounding, and that maybe you try to avoid doing that. But for a lot of us, you need to check in with your intuition and see if this is the true case for you. Moving around and processing presence through those grids is going to be extremely grounding, because that is the nature of our mission. That is the nature of what we're here to do. So can you just imagine if we tried to just sit still in the same place just because we think that's what grounding is? Of course, if that feels good for you for the time being, that's right. That's aligned for you. But you might find that moving around to different locations, even if it's like down the street, or even if it's like in another city or another country, depending on the circumstances, feels a lot more grounding than just staying in one place. Because essentially, yes, grounding can be around grounding to the earth, but it's so much more than that. Being aligned with your soul is grounding. That is one of the essential components to grounding. You can ground to the earth all day, but if you're not aligned with your soul, if you're not aligned with your higher levels of consciousness and your authentic blueprint, what is the point of grounding? You're not grounding anything. Grounding is relevant when you are aligned to your soul. So here's what I'll also say as a crucial piece. The spiritual approach to grounding will usually talk about getting in touch with your root chakra and connecting with the earth and the core of the earth. But if you're watching this video, it's most likely that's not enough. When you connect with the earth, earth can act as a sacred portal, but it is important for you to actually connect with the higher gravitational centers beyond the earth. For example, the black holes that are relevant to your soul, and ultimately the galactic core, which is kind of like the earth's core, but on a galactic level. For human circuitry, it's probably enough to connect with the earth because all of the other energetic rendering systems of their oversoul is simply connected through the earth. But if you happen to be a hybrid or an advanced starseed, then your energetic structure is already based out of the galactic core and the black hole level. And so only connecting with the earth all the time is not enough. And even when you connect with the earth, even if you just connect with the earth, please have in mind that you're also connecting with the higher gravitational centers. I hope that makes sense. So for a lot of advanced starseeds and hybrids, their energetic circuitry is already rendering that level of the galactic core and the black holes, whereas the human matrix, the regular human matrix, or just a regular starseed, maybe their energetic field is just maybe limited to the level of the earth's core. Okay, so when you ground, connect with the earth, but also connect with the galactic core and the black holes that are relevant to your soul. There's many black holes, but specifically connect with the black holes that are relevant to your soul. And depending on the situation, I like to also ground my field to the planetary systems that I know my soul is connected to. So for example, I'll do work around connecting with the core of Venus to help render my entire energetic field. And that's also grounding for me. It's still part of my soul frequency, so I'm actually totally aligning my grid. And also importantly, when you connect with your soul star, a lot of people stop at the soul star, but it's also important to touch the portal of your stellar gateway and always touch base with your source field, which in metaphysical terms, they call this the great central sun. So if that aligns more for you to call it the great central sun or the ultimate creator or source creator, always maintain your connection from your heart field, which is the balance point of all of these energies. From your heart field, connect with the earth, galactic core, black holes relevant to your soul expression, and then touch your source field, the great central sun, your stellar gateway, soul star, and all of the planetary systems and star systems that are relevant to your soul. And if you do my activations, you'll notice that this is what I do exactly before the beginning of every single activation. And maybe I don't mention the words of all of these points, but I'm always energetically invoking it. So in that way, if you ground like that, you'll notice that you feel so much more grounded than you've ever felt just simply connecting with the earth. Because that is the scope of your energy field. It is that large. Sacral chakra and earth star. So the common misperception is that the root chakra is so important to grounding and that's pretty much it. But for you, your sacral chakra is actually one of the key components to grounding. And also the earth star. Earth star, touching point with your earth star more frequently will be extremely beneficial just than thinking about your root chakra. And whenever you do any kind of energy work, or if you do things that are more ascending to your energy and you want to ground, always invoke the calibration of your earth star chakra. And then from there, sharing all of your frequencies with the core of the earth. And that's a really, really grounding practice to do whenever you go through breakthroughs or whenever you make ascension advances. Share it with the earth, and that will help you ground, because you are offloading all of these energies to be processed from the collective of the earth. And some of the energy work that you've done may have never been done by the entire collective before. And when you share this frequencies with the earth consciously, the earth will kind of program the entire collective matrix with that and integrate it more efficiently. And then you can just feel more grounded because the entire collective already has that unconscious work done with the earth's field. if that makes sense. If you've done like extraterrestrial work, for example, that is so out of this world and you need to integrate it back to your human body, you have to share it with the earth so that the earth will code it in the entire collective, and then it just feels more safe to do that. And also it benefits her tremendously, which is why you should share it. Thank you, earth. I love you. Okay, so sacral chakra. People may not know that this is so grounding, but this is very similar to when I shared about how when there's a portal, some vicinity around it may be very powerful, or when you're too close to the earth, it might actually be better to be a little bit elevated. Sacral chakra is kind of like that. Working with the sacral can be one of the most effective ways for you to ground. I remember I met Manesh Ibar, and it was one of the most monumental moments in my life when I met this shaman. He's from Basque. And if you've been following my channel for a few years, you would have seen my vlog with Manesh. I was in LA for a Mind Valley event and I was interviewing Manesh. He's one of the most interesting shamans and healers I've ever met. And when he looked at me, he was like, where are you from? He was like trying to figure out, what the hell are you? And then he's like, he just has never seen like my energy type before. And then he told me in the end, I was like asking him a couple of questions, and he's like, for you, don't try to ground that much. And he told me, like, instead of working with the root, and that just is too dense for me, and to work with the sacral chakra instead. For you, it's grounding to focus on sacral chakra things like relationships, sensuality, expression, creative expression. These things are not commonly known as grounding practices because people split up those chakras. But for you, these energetic centers are even more merged than it is commonly believed. The root and the sacral chakra are obviously connected, but for you, they impact each other so much more viscerally because of the way that you process energy. It's almost like one thing. And sometimes it's even more grounding for you to do sacral chakra things than just focusing on the root chakra things. So again, that would be creative expressions, sensuality, pleasure, and relationships, nurturing relationships. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. This has been a part of a 24-day series of activations and transmissions right here on YouTube. You can check that playlist out below where I will link it. And tomorrow I will see you in your activation of your grounding templates, integrating the Gaia Sophia code. And I'll also be calibrating your Earth Star, root, and sacral chakras. I'll see you tomorrow in the activation. Bye.